Rumors say a 1940s student summoned a demon to write his thesis. It's still grading, harshly. The Rondebosch Library was a quiet sanctuary during the day, its shelves lined with ancient tomes and modern textbooks. But at night, it transformed into a place of shadows and whispers. The air grew heavy, and the faint scent of old paper and something metallic lingered in the air. Ethan, a university student desperate to finish his thesis, sat hunched over a desk in the dimly lit study area. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, and the library was eerily silent except for the occasional creak of the old wooden shelves. He rubbed his eyes, exhaustion weighing on him, but he couldn't afford to stop. His deadline was tomorrow. As he flipped through the notes, a sudden gust of cold air swept through the room. The pages of his notebook fluttered on their own, and Ethan froze. His eyes darted to the shelves behind him, where a single book stood out, a thick, leather-bound volume titled De Vermis Mysteris. Its spine was cracked, and dark ink dripped from its pages, pooling on the floor. The story of the homework demon was a well-known legend among Rondebosch students. In the 1940s, a desperate graduate named Jacobus van Niekerk had been struggling to complete his thesis. Facing expulsion, he turned to forbidden knowledge, summoning a demon to write his paper for him. The demon compiled, but at a terrible cost. Jacobus vanished the night he submitted his thesis, and the demon remained bound to the library. Over the decades, students who stayed too late would encounter strange phenomena: books moving on their own, whispers in empty aisles, and most terrifying of all, the homework demon itself. It would grade their work, leaving behind grotesque marks and cryptic notes written in blood. Those who failed its standards disappeared. Ethan's heart raced as he stared at the dripping book. He tried to convince himself it was just his sleep-deprived mind playing tricks on him. But then his thesis draft began to move. The pages flipped on their own, and a low, guttural voice filled the room. "Weak argument," it growled. "Insufficient evidence." Ethan watched in horror as his essay began to melt, the ink transforming into writhing maggots that spilled onto the desk. He stumbled back, knocking over his chair, but the voice continued. "Disorganized structure, poor grammar, fail." A clawed hand emerged from the shadows, its talons glinting in the dim light. Ethan tried to run, but his legs wouldn't obey. The hand grabbed his arm, its grip like iron, and dragged him toward the fiction section. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the darkness. The next morning, the librarian arrived to open the library. She found Ethan's desk in disarray, his thesis scattered across the floor, the pages covered in maggots and strange blood-red symbols. She sighed, shaking her head as she picked up the mess. "Oh, another one," she muttered, tossing the ruined papers into the trash. She glanced at the clock. It said 9 a.m. The library was about to open, and students would soon flood in, oblivious to the horrors that lurked in the shadows. As she walked past the fiction section, She paused. A single book lay on the floor, its cover slightly ajar. She picked it up, her fingers brushing against the title, De Vermis Mysteris. She shuddered and placed it back on the shelf, muttering under her breath, "We're definitely closing early tonight." The homework demon's legend lived on, whispered among students during late-night study sessions. Some claimed to hear its voice in the stacks, critiquing their work with brutal honesty. Others swore they saw Ethan's face in the window of the fiction section, his eyes wide with terror. But one thing was certain: the demon was always watching, always grading, and for those who failed to meet its standards, the library's darkest aisles became their final resting place.